specialty this weekend. Tourism, all the dollars it brings in. Popular vacation spots are working very, very hard to make sure the oil stays far off the shore. They're worried that the approaching slick could close the beaches and keep the tourists away naturally. Elizabeth Pran live in Destin, Florida with more. And Elizabeth, I've been watching your reports today. I used to live down, in that area, and the beaches used to be just packed. I mean, you couldn't walk around. Doesn't look that way at this point. How far east is the oil reaching? Are the local and state leaders there showing support to you?
Yes, they are, and we're going to get to that, but I want to talk to the point you just made because that's new today. Yesterday when we arrived here on scene, Destin was the farthest east, and we just heard overnight those tar balls are starting to wash up in Panama City Beach on the west end of Panama City Beach, but still in that area nonetheless. Bay County is east of us. They're coming up in these small tar chips and tar balls right now, but it's quite a contrast when you see it rolling in these emerald green waves. We spoke with local officials there who say, one luxury we do have is we have had the time to plan. So they have huge cleanup efforts underway for when those tar balls hit. Now, Okaloosa Island is about 10 minutes from here in Destin in the west direction. They picked up 14,000 pounds of tar balls just on Friday, so that really displays just how intense these efforts are. They're also getting a lot of support from governors and local state leaders. We know Governor Riley as well as Senator Shelby was in Orange Beach over this Father's Day weekend. So they are meeting with local fishermen. They're getting a first-hand look at the cleanup efforts, and they're also saying, look, we're leading by example. We're here enjoying our weekend, so follow our lead. Julia?
This is so hard on tourism, obviously. Is it hitting each of the beach towns the same way?
It's hitting very differently, and I'm going to step out of the shot so you can see here. Like you mentioned, normally these beaches are packed, and yes, it is dinner time. And keep in mind, we did see some visitors here today, although we do have some statistics for you. We talked to local leaders here in Okaloosa County, and they tell us that across the board, tourism is down about 30%. But that being said, not every location is seeing just that 30% number. That oil hits very sporadically on these Gulf waters. You never know when it's going to hit or how hard it's going to hit. So people are seeing different results in tourism, but none of it pretty, more or less. Julia?
Elizabeth Pran in Destin, Florida. Thank you very much, Elizabeth. It's so hard to imagine, but this is day 61 of the Gulf oil spill. It's probably not difficult for the people down there to imagine it, though. And for each of those 61 days, we've been telling you about the scope of this disaster, the size of it, and more recently, how much of the Gulf Coast is affected by it. We want to show you something now. This is something that our graphics department put together. Might help put the size of this disaster in perspective. Watch here. This is the extent of the oil slick in the Gulf. Now consider a slick of this size in the Atlantic would stretch from New York City down to Wilmington, North Carolina.
Wow.
Now, what if this spill had actually happened in the Pacific? It would probably cover a 500-mile-long stretch of the California coast, let's say from Santa Rosa to San Diego. If you live out there, that's a fairly hefty distance. And what if it happened in the Great Lakes region? The oil would stretch from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, all the way to Rochester, New York. Interesting. It definitely does give you perspective.
It sure does.
Wow.